What is going on, everybody? How we doing? Happy Sunday to you. I know it's been a little bit, but we're back. I'm back. It's back, however you want to refer to it. Appreciate you jumping in. Even more so sharing the stream. More so sharing the stream out there. Let me make sure we got comments up here so I can see that everything's running smooth. If we have any problems with the sound, lighting, video, anything as usual, please let me know. We are outside right now, so down in Los Angeles, California. So you're going to have some planes flying overhead. There are going to be some things happening. Just let me know if it gets too loud, and I'll make sure to let the planes know that they need to shut up. So we'll do what we can. Today is going to be a little Q&A. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to jump back in here for a while, but I was a gentleman by the name of Douglas that I met in Elizabeth City. If you remember, while I was in Elizabeth City for the protests that were happening due to the lack of release of body cam footage for the event that involved an officer in a shooting. I met him out there, and he has a podcast now, and wanted to talk a little bit about unbiased journalism as kind of like the rough outline, which I think is such a such a massive thing right about now in the days of everything. We've had so many things that have changed since I'll talk about me since I started in the stream game about a year and a half ago. Things have changed radically. People have changed radically. The world at large has, but the change that really we'll unpack this more while we're talking is the situation where we've had people that have claimed to be unbiased and have really gone hard a direction. You know what I mean? They've decided that they'd rather be more of an activist for a side or a cause than to better explore it from both sides. That being said, it's difficult because I understand that people have issues. You know, they've got their own ideology, they got their own fundamentals, but you get to a point where if you're coming in claiming to be unbiased, there's a certain element that needs to be maintained there, right? Questions that need to be afforded to both sides that aren't leading, questions that are going to be offered to both sides that aren't going to be loaded with back end gotcha moments, right? And I try to work really hard to do that. It's difficult at times because, again, we all have our own opinions, we all have our own views, we all have our own thought processes. But the best thing I can do is try to give everybody an opportunity to see things as openly as possible. It's not my place to make a decision for you, make a choice for you as to how you should feel or think. I'm just going to try to do my best to showcase it as it happens, when it happens, how it happens, without putting too much of a crazy narrative or filter on it, which is the reason I got into this in the first place. It's difficult, however, I know, to keep your opinions to yourself sometimes. Like this guy, Tim, some people are just, natural tool bags. You know what I mean? Just real kind of garbage bags. You know what I mean? They don't really have much of an understanding in life and kind of sit back with an ignorant, arrogant viewpoint, if you get what I'm saying, Tim. That being said, I've kind of sat back on the fence a little bit, held back a lot of views. However, in these situations, I have no problem kind of laying it out there, talking about who's an asshole, who's not, who's been cool, who hasn't been cool. And I have no problem with names, man. So we're going to sit and talk and kind of get into things. Again, I apologize for being on a hiatus. Like I said, I've been working on building a business down here in California. At the same time, been doing a lot of travel between here and Washington. And honestly, have kind of had a lack of interest in following people around and hearing the same bullshit, hearing people chant the same rhetoric and not do anything to make a real change. Because that's really what I was hoping to look for when I first started doing this, was seeing people change, seeing things change, seeing people open up to new opportunity of thinking a different way. And I watched systematically people shut down and become closed-minded, like hermit hounds, and it was driving me nuts to a point where I was like, I don't give a damn. I don't want to be out there. I don't want to have the same arguments with Antifa. I don't want to have the same arguments with anybody about the same things. You guys, we all know what most 99% of the things that people are going to say in those situations. So let's work on showcasing something different, right? Let's work on broadcasting from a different standpoint and giving people another vantage point of opportunity, which is from a positive stance of growth, right? And it can't happen all the time, but if we can at least start planting those seeds and work in that direction, then hopefully this will all be worth it. So, yeah. So, again, whether you agree with me or not, doesn't matter. You don't have to. I hope that a lot of you don't agree with me because I would hope that sparks in you some agitated opportunity to get your own education on things. You know what I mean? For those that think that I'm a complete blowhard, dipshit, awesome. All that does is solidify your viewpoints from whatever side that I happen to be countering, and it gives you a chance to really get feel good about your beliefs. So you're welcome. If that's where we're coming from. If not, and you happen to be on team, then I think you're in a position where you're willing to listen to other people, take someone else's views and opinions for exactly what they are, a view and an opinion. Stop preaching like science, because people like to say that's science and that's bullshit. I think we all know that. And appreciate that we're all built different, and that's the beauty of life, right? So what I'm going to ask for is the same thing I always ask for. Keep the comments civil, keep them clean, keep them coming. If we have any issues with anything else going on, please let me know. If we get cut off from any one of the platforms, let me know. We'll keep trying to work on it. Either way, we're gonna keep grinding and doing what we do. So big shout out to everybody that's on right now. All of my mods, again, you guys are amazing and you help make this happen. You drive the machine, and you've been amazing in support and keeping me going. There's been a lot happening in my life, and you know that. All of that being said, thank you very much for everything that you do and everything you've done and everything that I know I'm going to ask you to do continually as we grow and continue to launch into bigger, better, deeper, and more involved content. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, get a hold of Douglas here, who, like I said, he reached out to me and wanted to have a conversation about unbiased journalism. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say and what questions he might have. So, and again, if you have any questions that come through, please feel free to ask them. I'll try to pull them up, hyperlink them so you can see them as they kind of run right across the bottom of the screen down here. And we'll go from there. Douglas, so you guys know, is the host of a podcast called Podcaste Le Reaissance. I don't believe it's French. I don't believe he's in France. However, it's got a French vibe to it. And the Renaissance aspect, I think, is really cool. And I'm looking forward to talking to him about that because I have a strong belief that people, we need to focus on in this whole revolution, right? The country, we need to go into a state of revolt. No, we've done that, right? We established that. We went through a revolution. You guys might remember that one. Though my friend Kelly Leeper might have that confused with the Civil War. But we went through a revolution. What we need is a renaissance. We need to change. We need to utilize the things that we have in this incredible country to make the changes that need to be made and express ourselves through the organics of growth. And that's what it's about, right? It's about taking what we've learned and assimilating the things that we're going through and taking all of that and projecting it into a better tomorrow, right? Like, so we can have a better tomorrow. And I think the big focus for that, guys, we keep forgetting, is that it's not for our tomorrow, it's for their tomorrow, our kids, our future generations, the progeny. We're trying to build them a better life. But you got a lot of kids that are out there right now that are in hardcore protests that are screaming, change, change, change. I want it now. I want it now. And they forgot that you don't get what you want when you want it. You kind of get the whole get what you get and don't throw a fit. I understand that might be changing a little bit, but the concept's the same, right? The concept's the same. You don't get the life, you don't get the world on your terms. The world comes at you and you got to find a way to work with it. You know what I mean? And that's how it's going to be. So I'm going to give Doug a call here and see where this goes. So again, we're going to be talking about, let me pull this up here, make sure this works out for us, and we'll be good. I appreciate you guys bearing with me through my technological shortcomings. So sit tight for one moment. Give me just a sec. I'm going to play a video on the sidebar as well, just from the earlier days, like from one of the first couple reportings that I ever did from the CHOP, if you guys can remember that. And let that take you back. Hey, Doug, are you there with us? Let me. There you are, bud. I'm going to try to. Let me. That sounded very official. Your call is now being recorded. You there?
Let me wrap up. Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, bud. I just want to make sure that everyone else can hear you on the feed here. I'm live as well. So I'm doing my a studio stream right now. So be careful, my friend. Be careful. Don't incriminate yourself in anything wild, man. You can't edit. You can edit this, but it's not going to change what happens. So let me drop the mic here.
Out the ums and the ahs and the weird, awkward conversations when we don't know what to talk about.
Oh, there'll be plenty to talk about, man. Trust me. You're talking to me. There's no end to convo here. This is just me looking like a moron trying to figure out how to work this speaker, though. There we go.
I got to run upstairs and record. I'm recording on this, but I record my voice separately because the audio is a little better.
Got you, bud.
All right.
I'm going to ask my folks here how the audio is sounding. Can you guys hear Doug okay? We can. All right, cool. Nice. So you're going to...
All right.
I'm going to click you in here. Doug, how you been, man?
Good. How about you, man?
I'm doing really good. Doing great. You know, things have been... it's been an interesting year and a half. It's even interesting. I saw you last. I ran into you in Elizabeth City.
Yeah.
I remember we were out in the streets out there, and actually it was really cool. That I thought was an incredibly unique, kind of not a first time, but one of the few times that I've had a chance to be in a protest where we've been able to see people protesting with the strong stance of no violence and no destruction.
Right.
You remember?
You were there the night that the SWAT pushed us up the block, right? That was when you were there.
Oh yeah,
and the four-wheelers came out with stuff.
Yeah.
That was the craziest night.
That was insane. There was at least a 10-to-1 ratio for police to protest. You know what I mean? Like the people that were out there actually protesting, there was like a small army of law enforcement there. That was wild.
Right.
So yeah, I
talked to the county about how, because they went over the top. The police escalated it. And I let them know that after the fact because that was crazy.
It got pretty bad. I mean, luckily no one was hurt. There was a few arrests, but at the end of it all, it kind of worked out that, it was just a pushback. I think there was such a cry for, for peace from the community that they called in over the top. I think there's something like 8 different counties were involved in that with different law enforcement. But
oh yeah, they were coming from 3 hours away or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. And guys, I apologize again if Douglas sounds like he's in a sardine can, as someone just said, but he kind of is in a sardine can. He's in this little can right here. So you guys know I'm not typically doing it. I don't do a call-in show typically. So and to be clear, guys, I'm on Doug's show technically right now. We're recording a podcast episode that he's going to be airing. When is this going to air for you, Doug?
This Wednesday. Podcaste Le Reaissance. It's very fancy.
Hey, let me, what I'll try to do is, so the podcast, so it's podcast with an E at the end, Le, L-A, RENAISSANCE, as it says on my ticker tape right down here, guys. So go check it out. And where can they find your podcast?
Pretty much anywhere. I just use Anchor and it pushes it out to CastBox, iTunes, all that.
Okay.
Spotify. So it should be everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we kind of already hit some of the points because for me, that was one of my first, because I just happen to live here, and media companies, Stringer, maybe, I'm sure you've worked with them before, maybe, they reached out to me and said, hey, we need somebody to cover this, and I happen to live there. That was like my first time going out. Like the night we met, that was maybe my third night.
What'd you
think? You've been doing it for, how long have you been out there?
About a year and a half. About a year and a half.
And what got you started?
Honestly, exactly what we're talking about, which is it was a slighted narrative media. I was in Seattle, in my home state, my home city, and I saw what Fox News was reporting about about Capitol Hill, about the Occupy protest, about all the things that were happening there. And they were talking about gunmen on the roofs, and they were talking about, people that were being, checked at these barricades, and, businesses being extorted at gunpoint. And I just couldn't handle it. I was like, there's no way this is going on. I can't believe it. Uh, so I grabbed a mic, as everyone is watching with us right now can see there. If you guys remember these early days, and I just started recording. Like my cousin Brandon and I didn't even know how to like hold a phone. We had no idea how to even. I didn't even know how to go live. Honestly, I had zero idea how to even go live. But when we did finally go live, uh, I was amazed at how many people jumped in and how many people actually cared to be involved in it. They wanted to have answers to questions, and it turned into this very interactive and immersive situation for me. And it was interesting. It was really interesting. So we ended up, digging into it a little deeper and going further, and it ended up being what it is now, CJTV. Went through some changes, but we got a chance to talk to people and take a view of what was really going on. What was really happening out in the streets of Seattle. So, not to say that everything was perfect, but it definitely wasn't what was being broadcast through this very slighted, very narrative-driven media situation. So,
right. So when you're going out there, you're not. You try. I mean, I'm sure you have some political slant to some degree, but mainly you're trying to get an objective stance. You're just kind of shooting what is happening.
Yeah,
I've never seen you push an agenda really. I always thought that was interesting. You're just kind of recording what's happening and you're letting it roll.
exactly.
I mean, that's intentional, I take it?
It is. Honestly, I could be very real with you. Not at first. At first, I really, I didn't really have a political viewpoint, one that I held on to. I was kind of on ice for like 7, 8 years. Like I went through a whole different life that I was living, and I really just turned myself off to all things that were anything mainstream at all, because I was stuck in my own little bubble of a culture. And anyone in my world knows that, I went through addiction. I was dealing with a lot of stuff. And so when you're in that place, you don't really have a chance to pay attention to what's happening in the world, right? You're so kind of isolated in that existence. Right. So when I went out there, I was genuinely curious, which I think a lot of people have lost, is their curiosity. They've started being more judgmental than curious, And so when I went out, I would just ask questions that I genuinely wanted answers to. It's funny, when I first started, I would take index cards and I would write down questions. There we go. We should be good now. But yeah, I would get called these names, right? Like people would, and I had no idea what they meant, like none at all. So I would write them down, and I'd have to Google them later. I'm like, all right, I don't know what's going on. So the curiosity is what drove me. And then the more I went into it, the more I realized that politics were what people used as like the fighting point, but really we were talking about a humanitarian issue. And I just kept seeing people fight. And let me double check something real fast. I want to make sure my mic's really up and running here. I know we should be good. Yep. So yeah, I think.
And if you're able to, could you get a little closer to the phone? Just a little quiet.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Actually, right there.
Right here is good.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Immediately got better. Awesome.
Yeah, one of these. I'm talking into like 3 devices right now, so hopefully I give you the right one. I'm just going to shout a little bit for everybody. So a lot of questions. Just asked a lot of questions, and the more questions I asked, the more questions I found that I had. So I just kept going that route, and I turned myself off to thinking that I needed to look at it from a political side, because I had none. Like I'm so done with politicians in politics, right? Like, we don't have people that are pushing our political agendas for the people. You've got politicians that are doing it. We forget that politicians are politicians. So they do what politicians do. So, we need good people representing us. And that's become a huge fight. You know what I mean? But yeah. So that's how I started.
That's because so when I said that was like the day you met me was like my third day of doing that. Maybe it was a couple other little things. I mean, I've been doing video production for a while, but not like being out in the streets like that. And, I was just there. See, I live here and people know me. And years ago, I said something about liking Trump. I don't know. And because I said that, even though I was being totally objective with the camera, I wasn't saying anything. I was just recording what was happening. They kept accusing me. They'd come up and shout at me. And it's like, but I honestly there was literally no slant. I was just recording because I was getting paid to shoot raw footage and I wasn't even speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting accused. And I'm sure I was wondering if that kind of things happen to you where people just take you the wrong way. Because one time I was in your chat, I think when you went to Elizabeth City, you went to Seattle or Portland. And I saw people in your chat calling you they were saying something about they were just calling you names of some sort. And I was like, there's no way he's actually that. And they were just accusing you of things. I assume that's happened in real life.
Sometimes. Oh, dude, all the time. All the time. The funny part about the names that come in and all the comments is people they went ahead and they decide to I don't know, project their viewpoint on you, their image of what they think you are, what they want you to be, if you're not defined. Mm-hmm. And if you like I've done, put in effort to not put a fine line on who I am with my beliefs, my structure. I mean, my ethics and my morals will never change. I'll never compromise that for anybody. But when it comes down to political stances, and when it comes down to my ability to talk to people, different people, a lot of the people that talk that trash are people that are really hardcore right or hardcore left, right? And that's a political thing, and it's bullshit, really. So the people that are, let's say, on the left that would say, "Oh, you're a chud," which is funny because that term, if you're not aware, is cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller, right? It's an old movie from the 80s. I never heard of that. Oh, it's laughable.
Is that a West Coast thing?
Nah, maybe. Yeah, no, it's like an Antifa thing. Or whatever, block, whatever, whoever. It's a left thing. And so they would just assume because I am patriotic, I'm 100% about America. I'll pledge my allegiance to the flag. I have no problem with that. I support our troops. I support people that put themselves in harm's way for the better good of our communities. I support the things that these hardcore groups of anything, predominantly left, obviously, hate, right? And they want to push against. So they want to put you into a bubble, right? But they forgot that you can feel all those things and it doesn't change how you deal with humans on a level, right? Like you can come out of there and say, hey, that's fine. But you as a human are deserved every right that you should have as a human being, not per the political system at play. Just because you were born gives you the rights that you should have. So people stopped asking questions. Like I said, they don't want to be curious. They want to be right. People just want to be right. They have to know that what they've said is gospel. You know what I mean? And God forbid you question them or shake their viewpoint, because you immediately are going to be a fill in the blank, a fascist. I've been called a fascist. I've been called a white supremacist. I've been called anything you could imagine, which is so incredibly.
Dude, I was walking my dog the other night, and I guess one of them saw me, and they were like, I haven't even filmed anything in months. Yeah. And they just shout out the window like, "You freaking Nazi." I was like, oh my God.
Exactly.
Really? It was 9 at night.
How dare you hold a camera and walk around and film people doing things in the public, because that makes you a fascist. Which, by trying to stifle the voice of open reporting and journalism, is pretty fashy. Just saying. You know what I mean? If you want to get down to it. So
the crazy thing was that I was covering it more than many other media groups because I live here and they just kept paying me to go out basically every night. So I'm just covering it all. There was times I was the only one covering things.
Right.
And I'm like, if I wasn't there, it wouldn't be getting covered.
And that's the thing. Any movement that you've ever seen, any effort that people put into being heard, right, involves a mouthpiece, right, where you can be heard, and we, with these microphones and our cameras, provide that platform. And I don't think what happened was some of these morons out there are like, we don't want you to film us. And that's happening on both sides, right and left. You're not allowed to film. We don't want you here. We don't want that. And I'm like, but what gives you the right to be here, but not me? What gives you the right to say what you want to say, but not me? What gives you the right to take pictures with your cell phone, but I can't take them with mine because you don't appreciate who might be watching on the other end. What terrifies me about that is the lack of confidence people have in what they're doing if they're so afraid of what other people are going to see them do, right? If what you're doing isn't something that you feel confident about, strong about, if you don't feel like it's we'll say a holy gesture, then knock it the fuck off, man, right? Like, don't do it. Pardon the language. But that's what happens. And a lot of people have forgot that just because I ask you questions and seek to understand you, I don't define you. I don't create you by trying to know who you are and what you're about. And that's where the unbiased aspect comes in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like,
yeah, I mean, I don't think people are used to seeing media that's either right or left leaning.
Right.
So when you're actually going out there and you're being objective and you're just asking questions, I see what you're saying. They still want to put you in that left or right box.
Exactly.
They want to pin you down and see where you're coming from, even if you're truly being objective.
Well, and the thing is, it's only objective if it works for those types of people's vantage. You know what I mean? It's only unbiased if it works for their bias. You know what I mean? And so it happens to be in these situations where things like what we mentioned, like name calling, right? Where people wanted to give me a name. Like if you look in the video, people that are watching right now, this individual, I guarantee you wouldn't have talked to me 3 months later because it became unaccepted by groups. So I'm talking to someone on my video right now that's in block, right? But they took their mask down and they were willing to have a conversation. They themselves have a camera. The issue is that these people have decided, because the bigger grouping said, you're not allowed to talk to journalists. You're not allowed to talk to media. You're not allowed to talk to press. They gave them rules whilst preaching anarchy. They gave them rules whilst preaching, their individual freedoms. And then they said what you're not allowed to do. And then they told us what, as journalists, people are reporting, whatever you want to give me a title of, that we're not allowed to do things. And so it's funny to see some of these conversations that I'm having way back in the beginning. Anyone that's watching me live right now on this show, if you guys remember these interviews, they were allowed, and so it becomes an issue. And it's funny because I got called, I interviewed Proud Boys. One second. Several. I've interviewed Proud Boys. I mean, I've tried to cover as much what's happening. Now, that was a big part of what was going on out in the world, right? Proud Boys. There was a lot of all these they're still happening. Proud Boy Antifa standoffs. So I got hit with the always a Proud Boy sympathy. Right, I had people really close to me jump on that banner, like, "Oh, he's gone to the right. He's an alt right now. He's a hardcore right." And here's the issue that happened: because they were friendly with me, because they were kind to me, because they were accepting of me, immediately people identified me as them, right? And them that you could identify me as a human that has different beliefs than you might have. But when I would go and cover the left, follow Antifa around, people do the same thing. Oh, we knew he was Antifa. We knew it. And I have to remind myself all the time, those aren't the people that I'm trying to appeal to. Those people are stuck in their bubble. They just want things to be what they want them to be because it's easier for them to process. You know what I mean? And that's not me. I'm not going to fit in your nutshell. I will be a paradox till the day I die, mostly because I don't have answers, man. I have more questions than anything. I haven't figured it out. I don't know. But for someone to say that I'm part of a group, which is funny because I don't even fully understand what that group's about, hence the questions I ask, right? And I've got it from both sides. I've got accosted by people on the right, like, "Oh, you're not allowed to be here, blah, blah, you're fake news, you're fake this." And I have to ask, I'm like, how am I fake? It's live. Nothing about this is fake. It's not doctored. It's not altered. Everything you say is going to be heard live. So say something worth hearing. You know what I mean? Say something that's going to change the world. Say something. This is your moment. And at times back when before.
It's such an opportunity.
Right?
It's crazy that they're so fixed in their way. They just get they're missing an opportunity to stand what they stand for rather than attack you for. They don't even know what you believe. So they're just attacking the fiction in their head.
Right.
It's wild.
And that's the fiction in their head, man. You hit it on the head. That's perfect. Because that's what I think so many people have forgotten. That a lot of the things that they're believing is just in their head. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just in their head. You know what I mean? But I've got like physically accosted by the right. I've been, physically accosted by the left. And what's funny is like, I don't really give a damn about either side. That's the thing. And by that, I mean, like, I'm not here to serve either one of you. I'm here to serve the general masses of people that have questions just like me, that are curious just like me, that are open to listening just like me. And so I want the ability to be able to do what I feel my freedoms in this amazing nation have afforded me, which is to walk freely down the streets and ask questions freely of people, have conversations freely with others that may or may not believe the way you do, or may or may not understand things the way you have learned to understand them. You know what I mean? The life that I've lived is very different, I'm sure, than the life you've lived. And it's very different than the life that I would hope most of the people I meet have lived. Doesn't make me better, doesn't make me worse. It just makes me me. And that's the beauty of human interaction, is that that's what helps us grow as a people, is by getting a chance to talk to one another and ask questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
The art of communication is being lost through like bullheaded viewpoints and arrogant opinions,
And it just seems to be getting more and more divisive, obviously. Now you have I don't even want to get into the debate because I don't know where you stand, but it's like the country just keeps getting divided. Now we have the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, and now they're trying to create political chaos out of that. It seems, obviously to me, it's like one of the ways the government controls people is to divide them up so they can never actually get to a deeper conversation about like something that actually matters. Rather than these surface level issues.
Since the history of government involvement, that's been the plan, right? Like, let's keep the left on the left, the right on the right, and everything else in the middle we're going to control, so that these two groups can never appreciate that there's probably more in common on a human level than they'll ever acknowledge or realize, because we're not going to allow that to happen. And doesn't that drive you nuts to think that politics are involved in a humanitarian world that we live in? Like, for the human interactions we have, people have to kind of ask you who you voted for first to see if they're allowed to talk. It's all right. Well, what are your thoughts on that Biden? Huh? Not, and like people, it's just these, like, what? I don't think about them. How about that? I don't.
Right.
It's just, I make it a point not to.
That's because I liked Trump at first, to be honest with you, but then the whole last year, I don't know. He kind of threw me off then, but it's like, then I realized I realized the point for a while. It's like, we shouldn't be looking to the federal government anyways. If we are going to look to our government, it should be like our towns and our cities and our counties,
right? Rather
than what's the president going to do? He's got his hands tied up so much. It's not like he's going to make any decision that's going to help or hurt you for the most part. There's so many levels of government in between. You might as well focus on the local government.
You know what the president could do, I think would be amazing? Ask questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How often do we see people in politics ask questions anymore? Like, hey, what do you guys want? How do you feel? Like, you've got, cabinets that do the president's trending or trend, man. I just want to know that you care enough to ask me a question about how I'm doing, man. Ask the people generally, what's up? How you doing with things? How's life? How are you? Like, what can I do to change things? That's my job, to be your person, like your representative in this big office. How can I do that? And wouldn't that make us different? Wouldn't that set us apart as a nation when we had a political system in play where they actually wanted to hear the people, listen to the people? But you're right, it starts locally, at local politics.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's become so, like, it's not like real life anymore. It's become like, politics is like a football game. It's either you're voting for the Eagles or the Redskins. It's like you have to pick one, and you have to completely oppose the other.
Right.
It's like, it's such a bad way to live life.
Right.
I don't know. It's so bad. I don't know. It just seems like that's never going to change for most people, unfortunately. But I guess when you're talking to people who are more moderate, like your friends and family, most people aren't that extreme unless they're going through a phase. Like, I went through a phase when I was younger where I was pretty extreme left, I guess. And I was like super for Obama. Like, yeah, Obama's going to save the world.
Here's the thing. Here's what we have to remember. For some people, He probably did. You know what I mean? For people,
Yeah.
we forget that for every person, there's a personal attachment to their interactions, right? So be it Obama, Trump, Biden, you go back. I mean, Bush, Clinton. You can trail it back for as much as any people may hate that individual. There's other people on the other side that love them. You know what I mean? There's plenty of people on the other side that could say that have personal accounts that have said what they did made my life better. And you can't shit on that person for that. You know what I mean? You can't destroy that individual because because they say that for me, this person did something amazing. That doesn't in turn make you a bad person just because you feel the person who did that amazing thing is a human trash bag. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I mean,
for sure.
It seems to be like it's working more like that now, but it shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's sad that people can't separate things out, because it's like one thing Trump did that is objectively good is he pulled the troops out of Syria, and like he was the first president. That was one of the things I was like, dude, that's awesome. Because my whole life, from 9/11, I was in sixth grade, so most of my life I remember just terrorism and all this war, and to finally see that start to come to an end, that was nice. And even when Biden, maybe he pulled him out too fast or whatever. But it's like when he pulled the troops out of Afghanistan, he did it in a way that maybe it caused more panic than it should have. But in the end, it's like, I don't know. I prefer that we aren't there.
Yeah. Well,
even though it's Biden.
Well, and see, there you go. And I mean, that might give an insight as to your personal political leanings, but that's a political thing, right? Like somebody wrote in the comments right now, it says, Dems are finished. Mark my words, they all suck. And for that person that wrote it, I appreciate that that's your view, but that can't be true. Not all Democrats can suck. You know what I mean? They can't all be terrible people. Like all Republicans aren't terrible people, because guess what? That's just something you put on a registration form when you vote. You know what I mean? It doesn't define you as a person. Because what if you're a Democratic voter and you vote for the I'm going to vote for my Democrat party right now. Then the next election, you're like, you know what? I'm vibing on the Republican candidate right now. Are you not allowed to change your mind? Are you not allowed in that point to like go ahead and feel that way? But the way that people have polarized things so much now, being unbiased is almost a crime in itself. Like you're almost more hated than anybody if you don't tell people who you hate. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not who you love, right? You know what I mean? It's not about saying like, man, let me tell you the things that I found this last presidential candidate or the last presidential, run did for our country. Let me think about what I'd like to see in the next. It's all about how much they didn't do, what was done wrong, all of the negativity, all of Trump. You know what I mean? You're going to find all the things that he screwed up. Biden, all the things he screwed up. And we forgot that we can focus on things in between, the good stuff, and drive in the direction of growth. You know what I mean? But no matter what, even me saying that, I guarantee people are going to be like, oh my God, I cannot believe that you would assume that Donald Trump did anything good for the country. I can't believe you think that Biden did anything good for the country. You know what I mean? And it's just like, because immediately you are all or nothing. And that's ridiculous, man. The whole all or nothing thing. Yeah, come on. Yeah. We
do need to focus on what we want and what good things are happening for sure. Because when you focus on what you're opposed to too much, you start to turn into that.
Right.
And maybe that's kind of because there's this it's called the horseshoe theory, where basically the farther right and left you go, it curves like a horseshoe more than like a line, and they get to become more and more like each other. And then in a lot of ways, they obviously stand for the same things. They both stand for limited government in some form.
Sure.
They both, one thinks that the police are the problem, and one thinks that, the Democrats are the problem, and the Democratic government and the taxes. It's like if you both would stand together and be like, hey, how do we limit the government? How do we keep it in check? They could actually get something done.
Yeah, what do they say? It takes two wings for a bird to fly, right? Right, left. Let's just figure out how in the middle we can work that apex point and make it work for us. Because the people in the middle are the ones that are you and me and everyone else that are just like, hey, man, I just want to find answers. I want policies that are going to be good for the people. I'm not going to vote for a party because I don't give a shit about a party. I'm not ever going to let somebody put me under the banner of anything, though they might try. like you are a fill in the blank, and I'm just going to cap it off with you are an idiot for thinking that that's what I am. Because what I am is one of two things. I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Christian. These are things that you can't change. You know what I mean? In my life, you know what I mean? I'm a human being, yeah, right? Like, but if you want to put me into some kind of social group or political party or anything because it makes you feel better about how you can deal with me, and I say me, I'm talking about all people. You need to look internally. There's an introspective moment there, right? That you need to go ahead and explore because you have really lost communication with reality. If that's how you're going to deal with people, that's all I'm saying. Is that if I needed to, like Douglas, you and I don't know each other, right? Like we met, you know, we're like ships in the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We went through there. If I said because you had a leaning towards a Republican presidential individual, I'm not going to say names, and then immediately I was like, well, I knew you were a fascist piece of garbage, and now I can deal with you accordingly. So let's go ahead and finish our conversation up on that note that I know you without having the opportunity to get to know you. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous.
And I guess it's an easy way to get through life because then you just know it's like, it's A, then B. You know, like
right.
You can just go treat every situation the same. You don't have to think. You don't have to worry about making a mistake because you are determined that when somebody says this, you're going to say this, and that's it.
You know, like, right? Because they don't care what you have to say. It's just about what they have to say. It's, you know, I don't care what you have to say, Douglas. It's just about what I have to tell you. And that's where people forget that a communication, conversations are an exchange where you give, I give. And the only reason you give is, you know, because you have something to offer. And if I haven't accepted that you have something to offer, then why am I wasting my time? You know what I mean? Like, I want to exchange that with you. And this is why we have these conversations. We have dialogue, right? But
so many people get into a debate mindset.
Yeah.
Where they want to debate all the time. I hate debating. I won't even, you know, I've learned from the internet, you can't convince someone when they're trying to prove you wrong. It's pointless.
Right.
You might as well just have the conversation.
Yeah. And once you start yelling or once, you know, temperatures get raised and then, you know, personal attacks come in, it's done. You know, conversation's over. It doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you should stop, like, in the future trying to listen to somebody, give them a chance to explain. You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing that people forget is that you're allowed to change your mind. You know what I mean? You're allowed to stop and go, I never thought of it that way. Thank you. Let me take that back into my lexicon of beliefs and see how it processes. Maybe it changes me. Yeah. Because people, in what I've experienced throughout, and mostly groups, I don't want to say people, groups. These groups have done things which I think is tragic. They've worked on intimidating people into agreeing with them instead of educating them and letting them understand better to possibly go ahead and follow. You know what I mean? Because there's no real leadership. And that's the problem, right? There isn't a leadership situation, people that you can really stand behind and appreciate. And it's sad to me. It's really sad to me because there's so many strong, like, willed, like, driven people out there that really want to be a part of a cause, but they don't know where they should put their efforts. And they're kind of misguided because you have these groups that have kind of misguided them as a whole. And it's because no one really knows where they're going with it, right? They just kind of like follow that mob mentality. So, and it's too bad, but they've forgotten that once they get into that little echo chamber, that they're allowed to step out. You know what I mean? You're allowed to, if something happens and you're like, man, I don't agree with this. I don't like the way this feels. I don't like what you're saying. I don't like what you're doing. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to step away from this. And I've had to do that. You know what I mean? There's plenty of things that I agree with that, like when there's the block, when block is out there and they're protesting, there's plenty of things that I'm like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, man, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And when you've got the other side, when you've got, like, you know, the Patriots and the, you know, national, you know, whatever group on the right you want to put a name on, whenever they're out there, I'm like, yeah, I get it. There's a lot of that I agree with too. What I don't agree with is one side trying to tell the other side they're not allowed to say what they want to say, and then getting violent on either side because it's not your right. You have no right to put your hands on somebody. You have no right to physically try to assault somebody for not agreeing with you. Like, come on, man. Stop. Just stop. Yeah. That's not the way that's not the way my world's going to work, which is a lot of the reason I had to step away from streaming, because I was starting to get to the point where I was I was going into a place where I was like, all right, man, I'm going to get violent. And I kept having to tell people, I'm like, listen, man, the best thing that you got going for you is I'm holding the camera. You don't want me to have both hands free right now because I've put back too much self-restraint. You know what I mean? And it's tough. I have to talk myself down, you know?
Yeah, I could see how hard it would be. Like that night that, you know, because for the most part, I am right-leaning, I guess. But when I was out there filming those protests, I was objective, honestly. And the way the police acted, I let everyone know. I called the county commissioner the next day. Like, you guys escalated it. It shouldn't have been like that. Was too much. I actually talked to him because he goes out to the bar. I talked to him. I was like, you guys, you know, that was too much what you did. I think I talked to him the next night, and he was like, apparently he lived right by where they were spinning the 4-wheelers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think he already got the message. He's like, all right, maybe we shouldn't have handled it that way.
Yeah.
Because you were there when, did you make it to the point where they came on the dirt bikes and 4-wheelers?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I had my camera set up on a tripod in the middle of the road, and they were like shooting past me. Like, I mean, it would have been beautiful for like a music video. It's terrifying, everything else. You know what I mean?
That was a nice break in the tension. But, I mean, like going out there, just from that, it's like hard to not get emotionally attached to that scenario. I couldn't imagine constantly going out to different events which are emotionally high strung like that. And yeah, you'd have to take a break from time to time out, man. You wouldn't.
You get to the point where I just get tired of it, you know? And here's the thing. I keep seeing comments. Chris, I want to address Chris Mack here. I think that Chris, you're kind of hitting a point right now that we're talking about. You're really trying to figure me out. That shouldn't be what you do. I'm nothing more than a mouthpiece for better understanding. The conversation we're having right now should be what people should focus on, and how it might be able to, like, you know, materialize in their life for opening them up to the opportunity of more conversation. If nothing else, appreciate that I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to ask questions. I'm willing to be humble enough to say that I don't have all the answers. So, Chris, Mac, I would hope that in your efforts to try to understand me, you would appreciate the people like Douglas and myself and other people that are out here. We're just doing our best to figure it out, man. My feelings towards the right and left don't really matter. I've been shot on by both sides. So don't think that I'm going to sit down and wave a banner for either group, okay? Like physically accosted. Had my phone like tossed and smashed by the right, you know? Been pepper sprayed and, you know, dealt with by the left. So don't think that I'm going to go ahead and jump on a bandwagon because they're not me. My people that love me and support me, they wouldn't do that shit to me. Flat out. You're not part of my inner circle, right, Doug? Like if I smashed your phone and then pepper sprayed you, would you want to hang out? Guessing not, man. You know what I mean? So I'm going to stay right down.
Whatever you stood for, I would question highly. I was like,
exactly.
Standing for? I don't know about that.
Exactly. Because people have stopped saying, hey, man, are you curious? Let me tell you what I believe. And if you got a microphone and a camera, maybe all the people that are watching and listening might learn something too. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll realize that what they felt to begin with was exactly how they should feel. But, and then you know what? And to address, man, I got to keep on. So Chris Mack, a gentleman who's a person that's on my side.
What's he saying?
So he's referring to the comment says, dude, I cannot say that you are wrong with what you feel, but things have changed. And I think that kind of that's a great to talk about what we're talking about right now, which is staying unbiased while maintaining your own personal views. You know what I mean? Like maintaining the opportunity to be you while it's giving everyone else the opportunity to not be slighted with the way you report because of who you are. So that being said, I feel like it's important that we appreciate that. Chris, I have changed. I have seen a lot. Literally, I've seen more than I ever expected to see this last year and a half. I've watched people do atrocious things to each other. I've seen some beautiful things happen. I've watched people get killed. I've watched houses burn down. I've watched, lives literally change and be destroyed. I've seen people climb up out of the gutters and help each other. I've seen incredible things on so many different levels that if I didn't allow that to affect me, what kind of sociopath would I be? Right, Douglas? Like if you didn't, as you're out reporting, if you didn't allow yourself to be empathically involved with like all of the things happening around you, why are you out there? And for me, like I want to wrap my arms around everybody, Doug, like everybody. There's not a person out there, even when they're being vile and nasty towards him, like, man, there's something hurting in you. Everybody's got something in them that they might not be able to express. And if they throw it at you in that type of format, like it's almost like they need a hug more than a hit, you know, like, and if I could, man, if I was able to just like, hey man, listen, you're not mad at me. You're mad at your dad. You're mad at somebody else. Like, let me give you a hug, bro. Like, come here. I will hug you till we both cry. But I guarantee you that, like, at the end of the day, like, you'll realize I'm not the monster you want to paint me out to be, because I'm not the monster that you want to paint me out to be. It's someone else. It's something else. It's the things inside of us that we hate, or the things inside of the system or whatever that we want to paint into, materialize into life. Like, we want to make a 3D printer out of a person, turn them into that so we can project and target everything into that person. Hey, superior video and photography. I guarantee you next time I'm in Kenosha, hugs for everybody. Everybody. Oh, man.
So you got any plans moving forward, or the next one's going to be?
Well, we got a lot going on, man. A lot of developments have just taken place with, Rittenhouse. That case is coming up. And I'm getting a lot of heat on that one. Because subpoenas are being issued now with people very close. And what's
happening with that?
The court date's coming up in November. So it's coming up. It's coming up. There's things, that's a whole nother episode, but, but what it is it's interesting that, every single thing, right? Everything that I've been seeing is become a football, like a political football, or like this hot potato of hate. It's like, well, like, even people in here, ask him what he thinks about Rittenhouse, then you'll know what CJ's all about. Somebody made that comment, and I'm like, what do I think about Rittenhouse? Okay,
I'll know your entire life.
I've got you figured out now, man.
There's one question.
Right.
Oh, Lord.
and it's just kind of like, I could tell, and it's funny because the way that I feel about what I experienced, not what everyone else has like seen on a screen, 3 degrees of separation visually from the reality of like hearing gunshots and watching concrete rip up around your feet while bullets are flying past you and watching people fall in the street and die. The fact of the matter is my feelings are very, very different. Much like anyone else who was in that experience then lived through it. And sadly enough, the families of those that are dealing with people that died there, like, is going to be from those that watched it and their viewpoints of things that came thereafter, And there's hundreds, millions of people have seen. Most of the world has seen video from that night. And even while I was live, there was like 90,000 almost people live watching these events take place. And even for those people that were watching it live, it's not the same as being there. So when people want to come in and pass judgment on you for having personal opinions and views about things that you've experienced in your life, it's more of an insight into them than it is into you, because they've never.
You were there
in Kenosha?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I filmed the shootings. I was 20 feet away from.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was 20 feet away from Rittenhouse when the shootings happened.
Holy cow! All right, that's definitely good. Wow.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was terrifying. Traumatic. It was traumatic for a lot of people, not just me. There was a ton of people, even people that were watching it. It was traumatizing for people to see that live, to watch somebody, watch people lose their lives, and to see the violence and destruction that took place in Kenosha. It's terrible. It's terrifying. Terrifying. It's been hard for me to go back, honestly. Like, it's been hard for me to go back and man, I'm not going to let myself drop down the emotional. Well, you guys all know how I get, but but when it comes down to maintaining your lack of bias, which is what we're trying to figure out right now, right? We're trying to figure out how to be,
that's a whole new level of, training for your mind. Then let's just be like, all right, that's tough.
Yes, things. Yeah.
I saw you were covering the J6, now they're calling it. So you have a second person out there now?
So my sister
works.
A
woman journalist?
Yeah,
sister?
My sister actually. Yeah, she's based on the East Coast, Northeast out there. So
nice.
When I'm able to be out there and cover things collectively, she'll do camera for me. But there's plenty of times, as of late, where things have been obviously pretty heated out in DC, where I haven't been able to be there, and she has. So. Thank God I wasn't there on January 6th. You know what I mean? Because I'm
too much.
I'm just the curious idiot that would have gone in just thinking I'm just here to record. I'm just
Right.
I'm just here to be an unbiased viewpoint, right? And I would have they would have easily been like, oh, Mr. Halliburton, could you please step out of your house? I'd have been like, oh, damn it, should have seen this coming. But people are going to ask my opinions on that. And hey, I have no problem sharing them. I think it's ridiculous. I think that I've watched courthouses, I've watched police stations, I've watched political offices, I've seen businesses, I've seen homes be destroyed, burned, attacked, defaced. I've seen people die. And we're seeing a lot of people being arrested in a lot of people's lives that are being permanently changed in this J6 situation.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely so
it's terrible.
Motivated.
It's terrible because
I remember
not just. Well, I got to finish. I think that people might get me wrong on that one. But again, I'm over the whole like, oh, CJ said this the wrong way, whatever. I'm just tired of like looking back. I'm like, if we're gonna let's set a standard. Can we do that? Can we say like, hey, this is how we're gonna treat everybody. This is how we're gonna deal with everybody. You know what I mean? If you're gonna do atrocious things in public, whatever that might be, and people can take the political stance on J6 and anything else and F off, man. Seriously, like get over it. You know what I mean? Like the people that were there are gonna have to deal with it. That's on them. Between them and the courts and federal government, they got to deal with it. That's on them. If they stand behind what they did, then fine, good for them. Great, that's fantastic. You know what I mean? And there's going to be plenty of court cases that are going to come up over the course of the next year, and so that are going to be, flipping the things on all sorts of different directions. And honestly, I don't have a personal, emotional stake in that, other than to say that I've stood in front of other courthouses and I've watched, mortar shells get thrown at, law enforcement officers, and I've seen, things happen on that level that's been like, holy shit, like, okay.
The one thing that is absolutely over the top is when they keep referring to it as a siege. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Maybe they were trespassing some people, but it's like if people wanted to do something in America where guns are legal, something would happen. It would be, then you're talking about mortars being thrown at police. That happens all the time. That's never a siege. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely, and that just goes back to the political bias of the media.
What's interesting? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say either it's a siege both times or it's not in either situation.
Right.
Like when the Democrats were storming the Capitol when Kavanaugh was being inaugurated, they were trying to break down that door, but they couldn't. Like, they were like pounding on it so hard. It's like, was that a siege?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Is that same day when J6 was going on, I was in Olympia, Washington, at the state capitol there for a rally. They were covering a rally there, and this group broke into the governor's mansion grounds, like kicked in bashed in a gate, like physically threw a state trooper like on the ground out of the way, and stormed in with guns and the whole nine. I mean, they were strapped and flaked and loaded and ready to go. And
wow,
not a single arrest was made. Not a single arrest. They had state patrol was standing on the front porch. They were in the house of the governor's mansion, like saying, "Hey, go away." There was no pepper spray. There was no nothing. No batons. No. They came out and asked nicely for people to leave. You know what I mean? And people were like, all right, we'll go,
They were right-leaning too, I assume.
Whatever. Yeah, they were. And not a single arrest. Nothing. Everyone just there and then left. And there was some weird stuff that happened there.
They wouldn't blow that one up. Like, that's much crazy. Like, if they wanted to make a whole siege thing,
and
why not cover that?
Right. There was M16s galore. There were, or not M16, or AR-15s. Plenty of guns there. Like, that broke through a gate. The front yard gate of the governor's mansion. And I was like, I was so sketch even like being present. I'm like, as a reporter, as a journalist, I'm like, yeah. And then immediately they're like, you guys should leave. I'm like, that's a great idea, officers. I'm going to go ahead and step out of here right now. You know what I mean?
Great idea.
Yeah. But what's funny is like in those situations, it's like, it's your personal view. Like, oh, I feel like it was, They were going to drag politicians out into the streets and cut their heads off with the guillotine that was out front. I'm like, come on, man, whatever. I don't care if that's your thought, whatever. What happened is the reality of what happened. And let's just focus on the facts at hand, not about this bigger ideology, belief system that goes behind it, right? Believe what you want to believe, man. Don't hate someone else for believing what they believe or thinking what they think. I have to address something real fast. So this Michelle Renee here, one of the comments that just came in, which is hilarious to me. This blows my mind. It says, CJ elevated that stupid Viking guy. And we're talking about the Angry Viking, who was, you know who the Angry Viking is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I ran into that group, right? The Angry Viking that he was having just after I left Kenosha. I went through DC. We were in Louisville, and they were having the NFAC was there, the Not Fucking Around Coalition, which is like the black militia. You had all these patriots, all these the percenter. There was the 3 percenters, right? The patriot groups, the Angry Viking group. They had all of these patriot groups that were there, and they were combat NFAC, because NFAC was saying they were going to burn the city down if they didn't get justice for Breonna Taylor. And anyway, it was this whole thing, right? This whole thing, guns everywhere. Well, that guy, I was like, holy shit, this guy, all right, he's got some strong views and opinions. Let's interview him. Well, he brought me on his show and let me interview him on his show. Basically, is how it worked out. But what Michelle here says is CJ elevated that stupid Viking guy, and by elevated, what she's getting at here, or they are getting at, is that I talk to them. How dare I talk to them and let them have a voice, right? This is what blows my mind about people when they talk about being unbiased, right? She's angry, or they're angry, that I elevated a stupid Viking guy after the far-right march on Memphis. And again, Michelle, your facts are off. It wasn't Memphis. It was Louisville. So again, you're coming at me, us, unbiased individuals, without having your ducks in a row, right? Like you're obviously not firing on all cylinders with this because you don't even have your facts straight. But and then continued, and then apparently here we go, continued. And I'm talking, this is back, right? This is over a year plus ago. Continued to show up, and elevate far right events after that. What's funny is I kept showing up to every event after that, Michelle, if you don't recall. But again.
Well, they know quite a lot about it. They must be like a super fan.
Oh, and you're going to love this last line, which is awesome. And I hope everyone sees this and is just LOLing because it's hilarious that it showed up. And then it says, I stopped watching once he betrayed us. The question being, how is it that you just...
here right now.
Yeah, you just commented. I'm assuming you never stopped watching because you know none of that's true. Because you know I wasn't elevating the voice of somebody. Let me ask you this, Michelle. Much like anybody watching right now, we're talking about being unbiased, and I've used this reference before. I recently, actually it was months ago, but I watched another one not too long ago. I was watching I like to watch documentaries, right? Doug, you like documentaries?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm watching this documentary on World War II, and they were specifically showcasing Adolf Hitler. It was on Netflix. You guys can find it. I'm sure it's probably still on there. If not, dig through and find it. I watched it. I learned some shit. I found myself more educated. You know what I didn't do, Doug? You know what I didn't do immediately after watching that? I didn't cancel my Netflix subscription for elevating the voice of Adolf Hitler. You know what I mean? I didn't say, how dare Netflix put Adolf Hitler on TV? He's a tyrant. He's terrible, obviously. But I didn't cancel anybody after that because you know what I did? I opened myself up to educating myself about the individual that we all know in modern day history was one of the biggest demons on the planet, right? Like just evil. Let's just get down to that, right? Accept it. And here we are, still watching Netflix every night when I get a chance. I'm still watching my episodes, not hating Netflix for taking the time to showcase a documentary, educating me better about that person. Now, if I had a chance to interview Adolf Hitler, I damn sure would, just like I'd interview Jesus in that same day. You know what I mean? Because I have questions I would love to hear their answers to. So rather than historically going back and listening to the narrative of a Netflix documentary, what I provided for you, Michelle, and everyone else that feels the same way is a chance to have live interactive viewings of history and people of history as it's happening. Did I agree with the Angry Viking? There was plenty that I was like, holy shit, this guy's off the rafters. This guy's off the rafters. Like, okay. But when I'm sitting there doing the whole active listening thing, Doug, like we're on phone right now. So you can't see when you nod your head when someone's speaking. Okay. Interesting. That's just active listening skills. Michelle, I learned that in third grade library class. That's just how you treat human beings. Whether you agree with them or not, you let them know that you're listening so they continue talking. That's how you communicate with people. So the fact that there's people.
What a waste of energy just to hate on someone. It's like,
right?
And you could be spending up to believe rather than trying to bash another individual.
And the fact
start your own YouTube channel and start pushing what you believe.
Right. And the fact that there are people that feel just like that, though, that are like, oh, how dare you? How dare you, sir? How dare you even talk to these people? Because I'm not talking to the people they want me to talk to or anybody at all. It defies the ideology of decentralized media and the opportunity for this to happen. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, absolutely.
And if you feel like you want to be more direct action, you don't want to have a conversation, go do something about it. Don't talk about it. Go be about it, man. You know what I mean? You hear these people that are like, yo, this has to happen. This has to change. Stop talking about it and do something. Get a petition. You know what I mean? Get your friends to sign in something you can put into action. Lobby for something. Go ahead and get involved in local politics. Do that. Run for office. For sure. Better yet, run for office. If you want to go ahead and if you're fed up, do something. Exactly.
Positions and stuff.
Exactly.
Shoot, I'm gonna wrap up my end of the podcast at the very least because I got to edit all this.
Yeah, man, you're good.
It's already going pretty long for me. So, where can people find you? At CJTV Media?
Yeah, CJ
on YouTube.
Yep, CJTV Media LLC. It's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. It's just CJTV Media. Easiest way to find me, or just CJ Halliburton, man. There's no closed doors in my world, man. Feel free to come over to my personal page. Follow. I'll be posting stuff on there from time to time. It's more of an interactive opportunity for people to step away from their free range bullshit that people like to put out there because they want their comment or their view to be like the biggest no you didn't moment. But it's just a place where you can come and actually, if you want to have a conversation, my chill community is a great place to come to. Big shout out to Tanisha for running that. CJ's chill community, good spot for you to step away from all of it and just, man, have a smile, man. Post a picture of a puppy, get a meme or a GIF, if you will.
Off.
Got real official there, Doug. Call recording off. Damn it, Doug!
I don't know how to record calls yet. I can only use the Google Voice. I've been trying to find an app, but I got my microphone, but it just gets better sound on your end.
Yeah, and I'm not set up for really like a call-in show at the moment, but we're working on it. But
nice. You setting up like a home studio situation now?
I'm always a studio, man. Like I'm in the backyard of the place I stay down in California right now in Los Angeles, and then when I'm back up in Seattle, I have my little studio set up there. And
nice.
It's just I'm on the road so much that it's hard to it's really hard to stay on top of any kind of studio, which sucks because you really want to showcase the best you can. But I remember that it's not all about that, when something happens. But I'm more apt to doing live feeds. That's where I'd rather be is live in front of a group of people. So
yeah, I got to invest in one of those live views. That'd be pretty cool to go out there and just stream from anywhere. I guess you can with your phone.
Yeah. That's what I do. We've invested in a camcorder now, the camera. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Camcorder might have dated me, but in a camera, and then you can run live view off that, and then broadcast from that. But really, unless depending on what you're covering, you don't need all of that. But if you want to do it, man.
Yeah.
And but it really, for me, it was just because insurance covers my phone, and when you're dealing with people that are lobbing explosives or pepper spraying you, or like when I had a Proud Boy when I was in DC. He rolled up to me and on a Razor scooter, which this was the most infuriating thing is this guy comes up in a flak jacket. He's got his guns and everything, or not his guns, but he's got his flak jacket and all of his little accoutrement. You're CJ, right? And I'm holding my phone. I'm like, yeah. And he snatched my phone out of my hand and throws it. And he's like, I saw you earlier, asshole, and hucks my phone. And I was like, what? I don't know what that means. It was a dick move, pal. You could have just said, I don't like you. You know what I mean? And then he just hauls ass off on his little razor scooter. And I was like, you bastard. I was like, I just got accosted by a dude on a razor scooter. That sucks, man. Like, I had to question myself as a man after that. I was like, hey, I just got my manhood kicked in the nuts. Man, it was, luckily the phone case took the brunt of it. So, big shout out to the, the life proofs, huh? They did their job.
Oh, yeah, dude, I have one on my phone. I dropped from the second story of my house, and I smashed on the concrete, and somehow didn't get injured. I was like, wow, what a good case.
Right? Seriously. Yeah. Good stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. All right, man. It was great talking to you. Thanks, man.
Good talking to you too, man. Feel free to call anytime. I'll give you a call a little later on. We can do a wrap session, all right?
All right, sounds good, man.
I'll let you get to work. And guys, again, this is Doug. You guys have the link right up here. You can see it. It's the Podcaste Le Reaissance. Le Renaissance, my fault.
You got that fancy Podcaste Le Reaissance.
And like I said before, I think that's a great name. The Renaissance aspect.
A joke because obviously it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
it's also
it tracks. It tracks.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, my guy. Take care of yourself. Right on. So that was Doug, Douglas of, like we just said, the Podcaste Le Reaissance. So you guys can see this video, like I said, in the background here. This is some of the earlier days when I was in the shop, right? Walking around with my microphone there, just asking questions to anybody that walked by. Anybody I could. But this is when people were willing to talk. Like, people were more willing back here to have a conversation. And slowly but surely, idiots started poisoning the well and saying stupid things about me or anyone else. Like, oh, he's a fascist. Saying something like that is like, no, and I'm going to say this, right? It's like saying, like calling somebody a rapist or anything. You give someone a scarlet letter like that, unless they've done something like that, like, you don't say those types of things, because what you're doing is you're branding somebody in a public light that now has to deal with the blowback of bullshit. You know what I mean? Not that I'm comparing a rapist to a fascist. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, canceled for saying that too, right? So anyway, Liz, I don't know what you're getting at over there, but I'm trying to look at some of these comments over here. So what we're gonna do is try to take some comments from the from the viewers here, and see what's going on with that. So let's see what's clicking over here in comment land here. I see you guys are having some pretty heated exchanges on the side here about some stuff, and we've seen some of the traditional hosts, the cast of characters out here. Any questions you guys have for me, though? Anything right off the top here that you're curious about? Anything that I can answer? Like I said, I'm an open book, and I'm willing to talk about it. So if there's something you want to know about, this is the best place to ask me. You know what I mean? Some of the things that people are talking about says, I own guns. I know there's a threat. Let's see what this one's about. I own guns. I know when there is a threat. In my state, I can protect my home. Other states, you may not. Only protect yourself. Okay, so we're having a little gun debate over here. We've got some Second Amendment action happening. That being said, I mean, what are people's views on gun ownership? I mean, are you guys okay with it? Do you think people shouldn't have guns? What are you feeling? What are you feeling on that? Let me see. Your home and is in the way. A natural response would be to shoot them, and you would not ask if they have a gun, right? So Chris also says, here we go. Let me go ahead. Someone asked a question up here. Let me jump in. My bad. Boom. So CJ, when you're back in Portland area, our schools are doing lockdown now at schools because of protesters for anti-maskers. Are schools doing lockdowns now at schools because of protests? Lisa, I'm not sure of the question. So if anybody knows, is Portland right now doing lockdowns because of anti-mask protesters? And who are the anti-maskers? I know I've seen students that have been protesting against masks. A lot more now, actually. I've seen, them trying to like get into school. I've seen them being like locked out of the schools. So I'm not sure when I get back into the Portland area what we'll be able to cover when we get up there. But I'm definitely open to options. So if there's anything you want to see or you're curious about, you guys, CJ at cjtv.live, shoot me an email. If you have any contacts, any places, points of interest, you guys know I'm 100% open for it. And I'm fueled by your curiosity as much as my own. So please ask questions and do what you can to kind of point me in a direction that you'd like to see me go. So, but yeah, the anti-mask things are interesting. Next show, we're going to be talking about vaccinations. All right. Which will be interesting because of the situations down here for a lot of these places that require vaccinations. And yeah, it's a trip. But I'm looking forward to I've got some people in the medical field that are willing to get on and talk, and we can actually have some good Q&A about vaccines and what they think about them, and then we're going to have some people be able to call in and talk about their views on them, and how that's become a huge political thing too, about whether or not like you're vaccinated or not, and what that means about you as a human being. Like you're either a horrific human for not being vaccinated, or you're becoming an immediate overnight hero for getting a shot, or vice versa. You know what I mean? So it's just nuts. Chris Mack says, CJ, is it patriotic to attack Congress and threaten the life of the vice president? By threaten the life, do you mean like hold someone to a gun? Do you mean like make threats of harming said president? I think it would depend on your definition of patriotism. I don't know all the things that happened inside of the Capitol that day because I wasn't there. I haven't talked to anybody that actually went into the Capitol. I've heard a lot of the reports of things that have happened, but again, a lot of that's coming off of mainstream media and a lot of the things that they've been saying, and I don't trust most of anything that I hear coming out of those. So I don't condone threatening anybody's life at all, and I think that in itself should be looked at. If you're threatening to kill somebody, threatening to hurt somebody, threatening to cause bodily harm, that is a crime. You know what I mean? You can't do that. And if it's not a crime in some places, it should be. You know what I mean? Putting someone in fear of their own well-being because your strong belief in what you don't like about them, that's not okay. Is it patriotic to attack Congress? I didn't see a lot of Congress getting attacked, but I don't know how patriotism and that wager into each other. So, Chris, I don't really know how to answer the questions, man. Wish I did, and honestly, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing. So I don't feel 100% one way or the other about it. So, yeah, sure. Yeah, the vaccination thing. I'm not talking like I'm going to be a medical professional when I talk about the vaccination. It's just my personal experience with the vaccination. And okay, Chris, you've been active, and so I really want to. Sorry, I just clicked on the wrong one. Where are we at? There, boom. There we go. Set up a noose outside that you are going to hang them. Yeah, I've seen that at rallies for both sides, man. I've seen nooses. I've seen bodies like that have been burned in effigy of a human being that the left have done, that the right have done. I've heard a lot of threats. I've seen people, attempt to hurt people. It's terrible, man. It's terrible. I don't think it's acceptable. I don't think that's the way to handle anything, is to threaten to hang and or amputate someone's head from their body. Is crazy. That's just nuts, man. I can't. That's some stuff you say when you're talking crazy. Like, I'm gonna cut your head off. No, you're not. You're not gonna do that. That's unacceptable. People aren't allowed to do that. That's against the law, and I know that because someone told me that. Also because it's common sense. But man, what else we got going here? Adverse reaction to flu shot Sherry had. Yeah, that's terrible, man. So we'll jump right into it here, guys. So I had to get vaccinated, which sucked because here's the thing. I didn't know how I felt about it. And it's funny because people are going to freak out that I actually got vaccinated, right? Because everyone assumes I'm some sort of way. What the vaccine I had to do it for was a job, like to work, to pay bills, to support the roof over my head. I wish I was like insulated in a way where I didn't have to, rely on earning my living, but I do. I have to rely on an income to get me, dog food, personal food, the ability to get medical and things of that nature. The issue that happens here is that people have turned the vaccine into some type of like, turning point for who you are as a human being. The vaccine, what I didn't get with the vaccine though, and to be very clear about it, what they didn't inject into me was assholery, arrogance, a smug sense of superiority. They didn't do any of that. I don't feel better than anybody for having had to get vaccinated. I don't feel like I have the world figured out more so than anybody because I had to get vaccinated. And when I say I had to for the job that I do, not because somebody sat down and said, if you don't, you're going to jail. Everybody's motivation for either getting vaxxed or not getting vaxxed, 100% up to you. It's your choice though. Whether you want to or whether you don't. I chose to so that I could keep the job that I do, so I could keep my income. I didn't have to, but I chose to. It doesn't make me any different of a human being, right? It got me sick for 2 days. It sucked. My arm still hurts. Thank God I didn't have any other wild adverse reactions. But what I didn't do was change the way I view people that haven't been vaccinated or people that have been vaccinated. For those that do that, for those of you that are out there flipping this superior finger to anyone who hasn't been vaccinated, pump your brakes, man. Take it easy. If you're vaxxed and you have a mask on, don't hate on somebody else for not feeling like they need to go ahead and get the vaccination. Chill out, man. Relax. Okay. But then I say that, people are like, we can't relax. The world is dying right now, literally dying right now because people aren't vaccinated. We're not going to dig into that. Again, this isn't a vaccine show, but I can tell you right now, like my vaccination situation sucked. I didn't want to. But now I have this dumb little vaccine card. And if I lose that, what do I have to go get revaccinated? Like little cardboard piece of index card that says, hey, man, you can now go to other places where people are vaccinated and hang out. And I haven't seen any like cool vaccine clubs. I haven't gone anywhere where they're like, hey, got your vax card? Dope. I mean, well, pal, no vaccine. Kick rocks. You can't come in here. It's only for the vaccine. Ridiculous. And I'm not cool with it. But I did it. You know what I mean? And I don't feel any different for it, honestly. But it is funny now because I do have these conflicts now when people are these mask debates now, anti-mask, anti-vax, all these things. And I have to wonder now, if I'm vaccinated and you're vaccinated and you have a mask on, do I need to wear a mask? Is that the thing? And I was talking to someone, I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, well, if you're on birth control and I wore a condom and we never had sex, do we really have to worry about you getting pregnant? Just saying. I know it's an obscure reference. I'm just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Do with it what you will. But yeah, the whole requirements and demands and this and that. I'm like, man, protect yourself. That's it. It's like in the ring, man. Protect yourself at all times. If you drop your hands in the cage and somebody knocks you out, guess what? Your fault. You should have kept your hands up. That's just how it works. So if you feel strongly enough that you need to go get vaccinated, wear a mask at all times, do it, man. I'm not going to hate you for it. 100% support you in doing it. But if you feel like you're God now, you got a superiority complex because you got vaccinated, let me ask you, when did you get all of them? Just curious. Did you get all 3 and all the boosters? Because that's the only way you could go into God mode in the vaccination superiority scale is if you've got the Moderna, you got the Pfizer, you got the J&J, and you got all the boosters, and you're going to maintain getting every booster for every one of those at the end of the day. That's cool. Go ahead. That's good. And it sucks for people that have to. And there's people that are dealing with real. I don't take it lightly when I think about people that are in roles in their life where their career will officially end if they don't. People in the military are dealing with it, man. Like my heart goes out to them. You know what I mean? It's sad. It's terrible. I don't like seeing them be put up against the fence because I'm not going to lie. I really didn't care either way. Going into it, I didn't care. But when they said you have to be vaxxed for this job, I was like, wow, I don't like it. I don't like it anymore. Immediately, I was like, I don't want this. I don't want it. I've had COVID. I feel like I should be okay now, right? I wear a mask when I have to, when I need to, when I'm in public in places where I should wear a mask. I don't want to be told I have to get it. I don't like that. And that didn't click in until I was told I had to. and for this job. And then when I got to the office, the sense of foreboding and like the feeling I had going into like this clinic, this little pharmacy over here in Van Nuys, I felt like shit, really. I was like, man, I really don't like the fact that I'm doing this. So the only thing that I felt bad about walking out of there was I feel like I jeopardized a little bit of my personal belief, but I didn't know I had that until I went in there. But I got over it pretty quick because it's not something that I feel like I'm going to waste a lot of my emotional energy on a little shot. You know what I mean? And if it turns me into a zombie robot, in the next 3 to 5 years, whatever, gangster, good. Watch out. I'm going to be the most horrifically like effective killing machine on the planet because I'm built for it, y'all. Sorry. Vaccinated CJ's coming at you. So, but I don't think it's going to happen like that. Bill Burr said it, and I thought it was hilarious. He was saying like how everyone's thinking that the vaccination is for like crowd control, right? Like they want to kill all these people off. And he was like, it didn't make any sense to me because if you think about it, all of the people that are fighting against the vaccine are the ones that are like, F the government, F you, F your mandates, you can't control me, rage against the machine type folks. So if they don't get the vaccine and then everybody else is killed off because they got the vaccine, the only people that the government's left to deal with are the people that are against the government. So it's kind of like you built your own monster, right? Like Frankenstein just hopped up, kicked you out of your own bed type thing. So that's the that's the thing. So but when it comes down to it, man, like do what you feel comfortable with. Someone asked me what my views were on a few different things, and I go right back to like, and this will be something that people fight about too. People hate on me for saying this about abortion, and I have to remind people I don't have a uterus. I don't have the ability to carry a human life inside of my body. It's not my place to give an opinion to somebody else about what they should or shouldn't do with that in their existence, and I'm definitely not going to make it my personal goal to build a hate system around any viewpoints that people should have. So that being said, I remove myself from the right to opinion on it. I'll just say that, right? I mean, I'm allowed to have one, don't get me wrong, but my voice is not something that I'm going to project into somebody's face because I can't do what they're doing. It's not my choice to make. So call it what it will, categorize me if you want, give me a title if you need to, but again, title in my local ICU is true. My daughter works there, so I know for some. Okay, we get people are talking about facts over here, which again we got to be careful about because the facts are only as deep as perception. You know what I mean? There's basic arithmetic and stuff like that, but after that, it kind of gets a little bit of a gray area. You know what I mean? Just to be real about it. So let me see. Your body, your people are saying it should not be such a big deal. Alana, there you go. That's what it comes down to, right? Your body, your choice. You know what I mean? If you feel the need, if you feel the desire, if it feels like something that you should do, then do it, man. But if you don't. And I'm sorry if the fight that you have to fight is one where you have to lose like your military ranking or a career that you've worked for. That's terrible. And I feel like that's a real tragedy now in America, in the world, where people are having to face that decision, And for me personally, I have a real issue with big pharma, huge issue with big pharma. Like my drug addiction started with big pharma. Like big pharma pushed opioids into the world that I existed in 11, 12 years ago. And then these pain specialists said, hey man, we know what's good for you. We talked to your pulmonologist. We're just going to give you what big pharma has to offer in healthy doses and leave you addicted to what big pharma provides. Not ever saying at the end of the day, like, hey man, by the way, you're about to become wildly addicted to this and it's going to ruin your life. So when they're telling me that I have to put my faith in big pharma to give me the safety that they provide, you can guarantee for me after losing 8 years of my life to addiction, I wave a huge middle finger. And for the government to team up with big pharma and say, hey, we got it figured out for you. Come on, guys. But again, you got to do what you need to do for your existence. You don't have to live by anybody else's standards, just your own. You know what I mean? And that's where we got to be. So I I had to deal with some real like internal demons on that. So I had to wrestle some real emotional, issues with that. I did. And I'm done, and I'm over it now, and I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I'm where I'm at. I'm good. The yeah, I mean, someone asked about what the biggest uh, scam that no one wants to acknowledge as being a scam is, and the first thing I said is big pharma. First thing that comes to mind, and well, I have family that's in the pharmaceutical industry, and so it's tough. But really, at the end of the day, like there's so much about the industry that is just as corrupt and crooked as anything ever. And if you haven't seen that, if you don't see that, then you're not paying attention. And follow the money, man. Just follow the money. Really, just follow the money. Jill Overstreet Ellis says you're not going to discuss the upcoming Kyle Rittenhouse trial. That is a statement, not a question, Jill. Just so you know. If the question is, are you going to discuss the upcoming Kyle Rittenhouse trial in this sit down? No. No, because honestly, I don't want to. I don't feel like getting into that. I don't feel like dealing with the back and forth, the shots fired situation on either side. I just don't want to do it. I have no desire to deal with that right now. I'm having a good day. I don't want to go down that road, honestly, as well as people that are cavalier to be like, oh, you just want to avoid it. Yeah, a lot of me does because it was fucking traumatic, personally. Traumatized. And I never would have expected that. And anybody that says they have PTSD from experiences, like, don't ever question that because you have no idea what started that, caused it, triggers it, fuels it. Like, someone's PTSD is their PTSD. For me, I had no idea that it was going to hit me the way it did. And honestly, like, I was in DC a couple days later with Andrew Mercado, and we were in a hotel room, like the last hotel room we could find in DC. And I remember I was still wearing the same pants that I had on that night. And it was like 100 degrees, 100% humidity in DC. And I'm on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, right? And I'm watching Martin Luther King Jr.'s granddaughter speak. And I'm watching just listening to these amazingly powerful speeches. And I'm knelt down on these marble steps and I'm recording. And it's beautiful. And I stood up and I looked down, and the people around me looked down as well. And the whole step where I was kneeling was just all blood. It was just all red. Not even aware to me that my pants had been saturated in somebody else's blood. Like their lifeblood had pumped out on my black pants and covered them. And due to the fact that they had dried like that, I was unaware how bad it was until the heat and humidity activated the blood again. And on the ground there where I was kneeling was this nasty reminder of what had just happened. And it hit me. It hit me right then, and I didn't expect it to. I had to go to the side of the Lincoln Memorial, sit down and cry for a while. And I did not expect that. I didn't see that coming at all. That was just raw emotion punching me in the face. And I didn't know what to do with it. I had no idea what to do with it. That night, we found a hotel room, and there was a thunder and lightning storm that flowed through. I don't know if you guys remember this that night, but it came through. And at one point, I found myself, and I don't sleepwalk, but out the window, and I was looking through the blinds, like the thunder and lightning. In my head, I was reliving gunshots and explosions, and it took me to a place that was giving me these crazy, vivid nightmares. And I haven't had a nightmare since I was a little teeny kid. And luckily at the time, I had somebody there that was able to hold like my shoulder and say, hey, man, I'm here for you. I got your back. I'm going to walk through this with you. And then you want to ask me about that individual and how things went with that. And again, at some point, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but it's no one's business. But that was a moment where I needed somebody else to be there for me and say, hey, man, I got you, So the whole PTSD thing, Kyle Rittenhouse, all these other things, accept that people's trauma is their trauma. You know what I mean? They might be going through something that you will never understand. But don't shove it in their face and tell them they have to relive it because it's something that you're curious about. So not that I'm saying that's what's happening here and people are asking about Rittenhouse, but people have been very aggro that I haven't been more openly active in chit-chatting about the case because it's not just Kyle Rittenhouse, some kid in the middle of the country sitting in a courthouse, you know what I mean, talking about what happened that night. It's me having lived the experience every day from then to this point now. So that's where I'm at with it. And I hope that you guys can appreciate that. I'm not asking you to change anything. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And what happened, happened. And the court will do what the courts do, which is the amazing part of this nation, which is we have a judicial system in play where we can actually have these cases go in front of a trial situation, and we can have jurors, and we can go through the process. We don't have to like the outcome, but we can actually always work our hardest to be a part of the process. You know what I mean? Volunteer for jury duty if you can. I don't even know if that's something you can do anymore. But if you get a chance to sit on a jury, you know what I mean? Like, do whatever you can, to be a part of that process. But it's going to happen one way or another, regardless of what we feel about it. So, um, uh, that's where it's at, and it's been tough. Honestly, it's been really hard. The 1 year anniversary came up in August, and it hit. Like, I was planning on going. I was planning on going back to Kenosha in August, and doing a 1 year in review, and the closer it got, the harder it got, honestly. And I didn't expect it, guys. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting it to be so difficult, and it was really hard. It was really hard to sit back and try to find footage from that night and those nights, and see which ones I felt like would be like the best way to showcase what those nights were all about. And it was hard. It was really hard. And I was going through clips, and I finally had to stop myself because it was incredibly hard. And not just for me, but thinking about how many people were affected and the lives that were changed, and the trauma that goes along with that for so many people that I stood with in the streets, that are watching houses burn and their businesses burn, and lives being lost. And you got to unpack your life the way you need to unpack your life. And just appreciate that everybody around you is going through something. And I might be switching gears on you right now, but I think it's important that I tell you that we're all going through something. Don't assume you know somebody based off of any small point of their life that you might have seen, because I guarantee you it's just the tip of the iceberg. They've got an amazing world of things that they've gone through underneath that you may never, ever see. And for the most part, you probably don't ever want to, because if there's anything in you that has a sympathetic draw, I guarantee you that if you were really able to dig into someone's life, their history, their story, like, it would affect you in ways that you would never, ever expect, like in a deeper tone than you're probably prepared for. And I know for me personally, like, doing work with people in addiction recovery, doing work with like the teens that I work with back home, with the at-risk inner city teens that are coming out of foster homes and abuse situations, and then dealing with people that have been fighting recovery, and that are just putting it out there that are doing everything they can to try to get through what they're going through, and fighting the good fight. I mean, don't ever let anyone tell you that your struggle isn't real. Don't ever let anybody tell you that what you're fighting isn't a real fight, or that your pain's not valid, or that your life that you've gone through isn't worthy of compassion. But keep in the back of your mind the knowledge that there's other people that are going through things that are horrific as well. You know what I mean? There's people out there that are living a life, have lived a life that we could never possibly imagine. So have that compassion when you think about people, and know that sometimes when, like I said originally, like some of the names that I got called when I first started reporting, some of the things that that people said to me were terrible. And I realized that for some people, I might just represent something in their life that caused them a pain that I don't understand. Maybe I just personify through my presence, because of my look, because of the tone of my voice, because of my gregarious way. Maybe in that I represent for them something that happened in their life, or something that happened to them in their life that triggers something very painful. And it's hard to deal with pain sometimes. And I know that we don't have the best tools as people to go through a lot of the things that we go through. I know damn well we don't have the tools that we should have, which is why therapists make so much money. But so when they project that anger at me, I had to stop myself and accept, like, hey, it's okay, man. Like, I know you're hurting. You're going through something. I'm not that. And if I can help you find a softer place so that when you do see me or other people like me or hear people like me or whatever it might be, so it doesn't trigger whatever you're feeling inside of you, like let me help that happen. And if it just means you need to vent something out, I'm okay with taking it. Like I'll process it. I'll go through it and hopefully you'll be able to do the same by getting it out. Maybe the catharsis in that is what you needed in life. And the next time I see you, we can hug and it'll be a healing point for you and for me and for all of us. But so when people do knee-jerk reactions or assumptions about me, when people jump into these, these viewpoints they have about me, like he must be this or he must be that, you really don't know, man. You don't. Like, you really don't know. And that's okay. I'm okay with it. But because it's me and I've lived a life that's kind of built me for this. But when you deal with other people, and this is what I'd ask, and the big ask of it all, appreciate that much like you're seeing in this video that I'm playing on the side here. Be curious, go through life with the microphone, and let people amplify their voice into your heart, into your soul, and take a chance to get to know them and more about them to better understand why they are the way they are and who they are and the things that have built them into the person they are. Because you might find that in the building blocks of a human soul and the building blocks of the greater, individual, there's things in there we might be able to use for ourselves. And there might be a lesson in there. There might be a story in there. There might be, some heartache in there that we can commiserate on. You know what I mean? And we're all looking for that. We're all looking for that validation. We're all looking for somebody to say, it's okay, man. Like we're all a little broken. You know what I mean? And that's okay. It's okay, and so like, which is why like when I go out and I do my reports, like when I see people that are angry, that are feeling the way they feel, like when I'm trying to, it's frustrating because a lot of times they don't want you there recording, or they're mad because they have this viewpoint of journalists or whatever it might be. I'm always coming from a place where I'd love to hear their voice. I want to hear why they're so passionate about what they feel. Because I said this from the jump, you guys, I truly believe, and I always have, that you wouldn't be out there unless you really felt something, right? No matter, and there's some that feel more than others because of the way that their life has brought them to where they're at. And sometimes it just comes down to all you can do is go on the street and scream about it because no one else is hearing you or no one else has heard you. Or you just don't feel like anyone's listening anyway, And then you find other people in the street screaming the same thing because they feel the same way. You're going to see a march. You're going to see a movement. You're going to see action. And for that, I understand, man. I understand it. I don't condone a lot of the things that get people, out there motivated. Sometimes the violence and the destruction. I don't get behind it because I know that in that you're doing the same thing that you're trying to process through to somebody else. You're destroying somebody else's livelihood. You're causing somebody else, emotional harm. You're causing somebody else physical harm, and that's not acceptable. You can't take that because you've gone through it and to put it on somebody else. That's not how you do it. You work collectively to get through it. You don't get to project that onto somebody and have them deal with it. But the world needs more empathy, right? I think the world needs more of us and less of you and me. And with that, I hope that we can appreciate that, like, our differences are the things that bind us. They're not the things that separate us. So don't let the forces that be try to tell you that that's what it is. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be left. It doesn't have to be yours. It doesn't have to be mine. There's a collective in there, and it doesn't have to all come down to some static title that people want to put over it because it feels better to deal with something based off of how you read it in Wikipedia than how you deal with them in reality. So embrace conversation, people. Explore, experience, expose yourself to new things, and do your best to try to tell somebody around you that you love them, man. Like, pick each other up, man. Do your best to pick each other up. Walk through life curious, not judgmental, and that's about it for my soapbox right now. But I appreciate you all tuning in tonight. thank you for the contributions, things that help make this possible so that I won't have to work as much as I do, so that I can focus my attention on the stream when the stream's supporting the stream. And that's how this works. So for all the positive comments, the negative ones, for the questions, thank you for being involved. Chris Mack, I want to thank you for your input. I've seen kind of like a little bit of a ride of the wave in that with probably views and opinions on me maybe, and just in general. Those types of things I really do appreciate. And that one, I want to go ahead and hope that people make inroads here with each other, make conversation with each other, build dialogue. I can tell you right now, the community in CJTV, and you guys all know who you are. We've built this thing. We've had an opportunity to make these connections that are beautiful. And there's people like you guys, just so you know, you guys are definitely part of my heart, and you've been there for me, and you've always been constant. You've been a huge part of it for my mod squad, for my sister Stephanie, Tanisha, like all the people, Cindy, even all the people that have been there from the jump. My fam out in Keno, all those people, Steph, Stevie, all you guys that have been supporting through love and have given me a safe place to be. Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to know that we have so much more to look forward to. I hope all of you wrap your Sunday with some gratitude. Find something to think about that your week blessed you with, and bless somebody else with the same thing. That's about it for me today. Between now and then, guys, I love you, and I'll be seeing you hopefully very, very soon. And again, CJTV, if you have any ideas for anything you want to see, where you want me to be, I'm open. CJ at cjtv.live. I love you guys, and I will talk to you all hopefully very, very soon. Take care of yourselves and someone.